Welcome to Mpowered Living. I'm Sheu. On this podcast, innovative leaders and visionary experts share insights and practical tools for work, family, and marriage. Each episode, we'll explore how to elevate your life while staying grounded in what truly matters to you. You're working hard to navigate relationships, build a thriving family, and create a legacy of purpose. We're here to help you do that with confidence and intentionality. So if you're ready to live a life by design, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Empowered Living. I'm your host, Sheu, and my guests today are Julia and Gino Barbaro. They've been married nearly 3 decades, they're parents of 6, and they're business partners and coaches. Julia and Gino share what it takes to build a marriage that lasts. They share how to navigate arguments, resentment, money tension, and identity shifts. They have wrestled through the hard conversations about respect, about serving each other, about putting marriage before kids, and they have come out stronger on the other side. If you've ever wondered how to stay connected to your spouse while building a career, how to raise kids who actually like each other, or how to stop letting unspoken resentment ruin your marriage, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Julia and Gino, welcome to the show. I am so excited to spend some time with you guys today.
Thanks, Ann, for having us on.
Okay, so can you guys just start by telling the listeners a little bit about your family? Because I know that you guys have been married a really long time. You guys have a lot of kids. So tell us a little bit about your family.
You want me to go?
You can go, baby.
Boy.
I'll wrap it up.
Well, my husband and I have been married for, we're just talking about 28 years. They'll be 28 years this year. We do have 6 children, 5 daughters and a son, ages 11 through 26. We've been homeschooling all these years. We're almost halfway done with that. And my husband runs a business, which I'm sure you want to talk about. But we do have a family business, Barbaro 360, that we're trying to incorporate everyone because everyone has certain gifts and talents. And I have to say, like each other, which is, I think, the biggest thing I have to tell everyone is our family, our children, they all get along and they like each other. Yes, they argue and they have fights and all that. But I think it's our maybe the way we parented, where we incorporated just conversation, argument, discussion that led the kids to just want to hang out at home.
Yeah, and now the conversation has turned to the last couple of days where, Dad, can you buy a 20-acre compound so we can build 6 houses and you have the main house? So I'm like, well, you're going to get husbands and you are going to be married.
Yeah.
They may not want to live next to their father-in-law,
near you,
but it's
sure.
incredible. Like, that was my dream. My dream was that my kids actually liked me. And I was always afraid that if I was parenting too tough or if I was too strict, they may not they might not want to hang out with me, and that is the farthest thing.
All the worries
truth.
that we have with
Yes.
kids, right? All the
Yes.
worries that we have and the struggles, and am I messing my kids up? Probably. My answer was always probably. But at some point you could talk to them about it and you can reconcile and they'll forgive you if you ask them.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is something that's like really weighing on my heart too, is I really want my kids to be friends. Like, I have this dream that they are all adults and hanging out together and just the best of friends. So if you're already seeing that in your kids, can you tell us, like, other than just cultivating conversations, what else have you done to help cultivate those beautiful relationships with the kids?
I'll share my expertise on this one, right, baby?
Oh,
Just get joking. I think the most important thing as parents is we need to model what that looks like. A healthy relationship between husband and wife. What does that look like? We absolutely need to argue. I think arguing is really important. We always argue, but we don't fight, right? We're never fighting against each other. We're having arguments and loud discussions. I think the children need to see that. I think it's important. And I think it's important at some point, our kids are around 3 years apart. They're going to have difficulties and challenges amongst the relationships. Try not to be too overbearing. Let them work it out. They will ultimately work it out. But I honestly think that as parents, we're there to mirror, to model, and to set boundaries. And we let those boundaries get bigger and give them more responsibility as they get older. And I think if you start doing that and taking it from that perspective, I think it really helps when they see what that really looks like. Because you can tell them all you want about what to do. They're not looking at what you're telling them to do. They're looking at what you are doing yourself.
Yeah. No, I like that.
Can you tell us, for the listener that hears, okay, argue but don't fight, what is the difference between those two things? What does it sound like? What does it look like?
She's looking at me. She's going, okay, you're the expert. I like to argue. I like to be able to discuss things. I don't want to hold things back. So if we're going to argue on a topic, and I'm not being vindictive, I'm not trying to be right or wrong or try to put her down or try to make her feel bad or try to make her feel inferior. I just want to have this discussion and have it out in the open and have an open discussion. And to me, the best idea will win. The best idea will surface. At least that's the way I look at it. And that's what's happened in our household. When she decided that she wanted to homeschool, because she wanted to homeschool, not me, I'm like, homeschool? I'm already weird to begin with. Everyone's going to think I'm a crazy person. So you can see the argument going on in the house. We didn't fight about it. We had some really vibrant discussions about it. And ultimately, she won because the idea was a better idea than mine. I had to relinquish that idea. I was more worried about what my mom was saying. I was more worried about what my friends and family members were saying and my people at my business were saying. I wasn't taking into consideration what was best for our family. And she started to frame it in that way that you said about the kids getting together and really being friends and really controlling the environment and letting them grow up in a loving household and having a relationship with them. Those ideas were better than my ideas, and those ultimately won.
Well, I think too, when we talk about fighting and arguing, when you're fighting with someone, I feel like you're almost attacking their character.
Yes.
You're putting them down, you're discrediting them, or whatever it looks like. To have an argument, especially in the Barbaro house, there is a lot of loudness because of my husband. But at the same time, the kids watch us and they have to watch. And then they're like, oh, okay, this mom and dad are just disagreeing about this certain subject. It's again, we're not personally attacking.
Mhm.
And I think that's the number one thing is at the end of the day, we love each other, we respect each other. We don't have to agree on everything, but we can have a conversation. We're adults. And it's important that we learn. And again, we didn't do this from the beginning. We've come a long way of understanding that when we disagree with something, it doesn't mean we're gonna go back and I'm gonna be worried that my husband's gonna leave me. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are certain things that, especially in the woman's mind, they think of abandonment. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, and just it's okay to bring up certain things. It's okay to mention things that you know your husband's gonna maybe overreact about. Because we're both on a team together. We're in this together, and I think that's the whole main point,
Mhm.
is we have to be comfortable and trust each other that we will have an argument and we'll come together in the end.
Yeah. So, what does it take to get to that level of comfort and trust? What have you guys done to cultivate your relationship with each other so that you don't go down this, like death doom spiral of like, oh, if I bring this up, then he's going to leave me? How do you get to that place?
We talk a lot about it at Barbaro 360, and what we've noticed is families just drift apart, and they tend to drift, and couples tend to drift, and it's like having the frog in the water. You turn the water on, the frog doesn't jump, but as the water gets warmer, he doesn't even notice it. And then at some point, he stays in that water, and the water gets to a boil, and the frog dies. And that's what I see a lot of relationships. That's what ends up happening. There's just no intimacy there. There's no authenticity there. There's no vulnerability there. You need all these characteristics, at least in my opinion, to have a connection with somebody. And I think the biggest thing for me was trying to have the connection with Julia and not just trying to solve all the time. I would always go to solve mode and she would just want to talk. And at certain times, I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do? And I think one of the best things that we can do as men is really to sit down, to listen to the other side and try to connect with that person. Because if you can connect with that person, then all of a sudden you're not worried about solving or anything. You're just worried about listening to what they're saying and really hearing that person. And I think if you can do that as a couple, and I'll slip into business as well. If you do that in the business world, as a business leader, that's what you're there for. As somebody who's leading, let's say, hundreds of people or leading departments, you don't know it all. You really need to sit down and to be able to listen to what's going on, get the feedback, connect with them, and then share your vision with what you're trying to accomplish. And if there's a connection, they're more likely to listen to you and actually follow that vision.
I think too, Gino, is when we say communication, a lot of us talk about communication. I talk about it all the time. But we could be really good communicators. We know how to talk to the person, we know how to listen to them, we know how to react in a proper way, but there's no connection. And I think, especially with our family, with our spouse, and especially our children, and this is what we're teaching them too through modeling, is first of all, you do have to gain the person's trust. right? So if I go to my husband and I tell him something, I'm like, "Listen, can you keep this between us?" And then I find out he's talking to his business partner on the phone. You know what I mean? Like, that is a
It's
problem. And
always
so
my
that's
fault, right,
yeah, of
baby?
course. And so I have to say, "Gino, last time it really bothered me that you did." And so it's one of those things, and I wanna urge everyone, because this was me for years. I would never talk about things. I didn't wanna upset somebody. I didn't wanna, "Well, what if he acts a certain way?" Ask permission, in a sense. Give yourself permission, give your husband permission, give your kids permission to be honest. Just say, "Listen, I just wanna bring something up. Would it be okay if you just sat and listened? And don't give me a lecture, or don't tell me what to do, or don't fix the problem. I just need to talk because I'm not sure what to do or how I feel. I feel uncomfortable," or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
be open about it. And I think sometimes we're never really taught these things. And so when we get into a marriage and we have kids, there's no manual that comes with it on, like, how to handle certain things. But I love that word permission, because you're giving yourself permission to be honest for a second and be a little real. And okay, if it doesn't work, say, "Hey, last time I did this, you did say this, this, and this," or you talked to somebody else about it. And I think it also works with your children. When there's something going on in your kid's life, we as parents see what's going on sometimes, and we're so afraid to approach it, because what if they are like, "No, ma, I don't want your help." But I promise you, they are dying for us to approach them in a different way that we think, not in the, "This is what you need to do." "Hey, what's going on? I notice you're upset. I notice something's going I notice when you get off the computer, you seem really down. Is there something going on there you wanna talk to me about?" And just back off, and whatever they wanna say, just listen and don't give them the answer. If they want the answer, they'll ask you. It's very difficult, especially with some of us moms who are very controlling, but I promise you things start changing.
What's your advice for somebody to move from that problem solver mindset to truly listening and connecting? Because especially for a lot of our listeners, high achieving, successful people, they got to where they are because they're great problem solvers, right? They
Yeah.
went, they fixed a problem, they moved up the ladder. So what was your advice to make that shift from constantly being on the lookout for problems to solve, things to fix, ways to be the hero, to
Yeah.
the connecting?
I think it's the question we can ask the person, and to say, if someone comes to me, first of all, is it my problem to solve? That's the question we have to ask. Every time someone comes to us, is this my problem, or am I overstepping my boundary into that other person, especially our kids, especially our spouse, whatever? Because sometimes we need our kids to fail, mess up, and figure things out. We can be there to help them up, but it's not our problem. And too many times we're that helicopter parent because we don't like to see them suffer. I hate watching everyone in my house suffer. Like, I just want to fix it. And I want to go, and I know what the best thing to do is half the time. But I have to say, wait, is this my problem? If it's a no, I could say, to one of my kids, "Hey, Cecilia, I can see you're having trouble. Do you want to talk to me?" And I could ask this question to them: "Do you want me to listen, or do you want me to help you solve it?" And so now I've placed the question on their heart and said, "Okay, do you need your mom to hear me, or do you want some help?" So ask them for the permission to either, "Yes, mom, I need your help," or, "I just need you to listen." And now you have a straight out answer on what they're desiring from you. It's no longer, "Okay, this is my problem to fix," or it's not. It's not even a question. Now I'm just like, "Okay, now I just need to sit and listen," because that's what they want. And so that's helped me a lot.
I'm gonna try to put a little bow on
Oh
what you
boy.
said.
Yeah.
Just,
I love your
I
bows.
mean, there was a lot of information there. It starts with awareness. First of all, you have to be aware that you want to do it. Most high achievers aren't even aware that they're acting like a moron. That's the reality. Like, I'm acting like a moron. I'm solving everything. I'm not listening.
Yeah.
The great Stephen Covey says, "Seek first to understand, then to be understood." That is so hard to do. You have to be aware of
But it's
that.
so freeing
I'm
though,
not
isn't
saying
it?
it isn't,
Yeah.
but it's freeing once you
Yeah.
realize it. And I got a quote from a podcast a few weeks ago, and I love the quote. It says that smart people know all the answers to all the questions. Wise people know the right questions to ask.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between a good leader and a great leader. You can bully your way, you can be a dictator, you can go to the top. Sooner or later, you're going to burn yourself out. And especially with this generation now, this generation is incredible. They have their weaknesses, like my generation, but they want a vision. They don't want just to go to work and show up. They want somebody there listening to them and asking them, why are we doing this job? Whereas my generation, we just showed up to work, we put our head down, we grinded. Was it good? Was it bad? I mean, we had some really amazing accomplishments, but going forward, leaders need to be wise. Leaders need to first understand the other side and then bring in their qualifications, whatever they're trying to accomplish. And I think that's the new model. And I even think it's for parents as well. If we
Well,
can,
we're leaders at home.
yes,
Yeah, that's something to remember. We are right. We're leaders, and I think the questions we're asking are sometimes the wrong ones, like you said. You could technically. I mean, I sat my older kids down once, and I said, like, "Tell me how I messed you up. I want to resolve that right now." And they're like, and I said, "I give you full permission to speak openly." And they're like, "Really?" And I said, "Yes." And we had a great conversation, and it lasted for days. It was almost like the floods were open and they were free to just be them, like, this is what's been bothering me for 20 years. And it was so, I mean, it
and it
changed.
hurts though,
Oh,
Jewel. Doesn't it
no.
hurt?
See, it doesn't
It
hurt
hurt me
me.
because I'm like, I failed them.
No,
And I get yes.
because this was a moment where I'm like, wow, I could actually, there could be the healing process starts. And it was so like, this is amazing. And so now when there's something wrong, they'll be like, Mom, can you just back off? Like, I need to I'm like, sure. Thanks for telling me. Like, I needed to hear that because sometimes, again, and the great thing is the younger kids were in the room during that conversation. So they were hearing all the stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure about this. But then they started opening up little by little. And let me tell you something, we still mess up. It's amazing because if they're not asking you the questions, if they're not talking to you about something so real in their life, something that's real, they're asking someone. And now, unfortunately, now we have online people, which I don't even know if are real at this point, which is very dangerous. So my point is, if they're not coming to you as a parent, they're going to someone. And so that's always a question. And again, we get scared behind that. But I just promise you, whatever your kids come with, like to you with, we all take it personally, and that's normal. And yes, there's many things I'm up at night. I'm like, I can't believe I didn't see that. Why didn't I see that? And why didn't I go to my daughter earlier? Do you know what I mean? But it's all in God's timing. And I just want to put that out there, is that we can't see everything at the same time. Just trust the parenting process. Trust
Mhm.
that you're not in control. And whatever is revealed to you is at the right time.
So, you guys have been married 28 years. I imagine you guys are wildly different people from the day that you met. How have you navigated the different, let's call it, growth spurts in your personal development, right? Like, for most couples that I know, they're not necessarily having growth spurts at the same time. So how have you navigated when one person is growing, moving forward, and the other one is, there's kind of this like playing catch up, and the next person so how have you navigated that in your relationship? Because I think that's one of the things that's required to last 28 years, is you're both growing, but not necessarily at the same rate, at the same pace.
Are you saying that I'm always ahead of my wife? That'd be no.
I'm secretly ahead. He
That's
just doesn't
actually
know it. That's all.
actually it's an interesting question because I never see her or myself as we're on the same
We're just
team,
different.
and I think that's where the relationship has to come into play. If you're married to somebody, you're not competing with that person.
Yeah.
I always want her to look great on a podcast. I always want her to do well at a talk. That's my desire. I'm not competing with or against her. I'm competing. We're on the same team. And really, the answer to the question is, I did get ahead of her at one point because I was struggling at my job, at my restaurant years ago, and I needed a change. And the only way that I could see that change was by doing some type of personal development. I went into life coaching. I became a certified life coach. I loved it. And she was making fun of me the whole time. She's like, life coach, what is that? And I'm like, trust
I
me.
thought it was the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I'm like, this is great stuff, like empowering questions. And Julia, I'm finally listening to you, and I can set goals. And it was one night we were at an event in New Jersey. It was the week of Christmas. And I went to this real estate event, and it was down in the basement. And I remember speaking, and it was more of like personal development, life coaching. And I knew some people from the community, and I was teaching them about multifamily. And at the end of the event, a few of them go up to my wife, tears in their eyes, and they're saying to Julia, thanks for sharing your husband. He just changed my life. And I'm not exaggerating. I love the story because, and I just love the whole aspect of that whole personal development. Yeah. And then my wife comes up to me and goes, what do you do? I said, I'm a life coach. I've been telling you that forever. and like a week later, she goes out and she signs up to become a life coach. And lo and behold, she's a much better life coach than me. And I'm so proud of her for doing that. But we do have certain seasons. And if I was the one out there saying, I don't want you to become a life coach because I'm already a life coach. No, I want to share the gift because I know that you'd probably be better than me at it. And she did tease me about it, but she actually pushed me to go out and to get certified as a life coach because she saw the suffering and the struggles that I had at that restaurant. She knew that I didn't want to be there. She knew that it was not good for me to be there. And she's like, you know what? Do what you need to do. But at the same time, Anne, the important thing is I did give it my all. She gave me permission to go out and to do the work. But I guess my radical accountability meant if she's giving me the permission, then I need to be all in. I can't have one foot in the toe in the water. I needed to be certain that that's the actions that I wanted to do. And once she gave me the permission, it was like, okay, now I'm all in.
That's a great story. I have to tell you though, no, hear me out. It wasn't always like that. No, that was a good, I feel like we were in a good place at that time in our marriage. Over the years, I feel like there's a lot of dips and kind of like, you kind of separate a little bit. You're not sure who everyone is. The kids are little. The kids need all of your attention, and the last thing you want is like your husband to come home from work. Do you know what I mean? So there are moments in our marriage, I think it's important to know is that they're not all beautiful. And we have to go through difficult times in order to say, wait, is something off? Do I want to do something about it or not? And so if we're at a low in our marriage, you get to decide to either say, okay, something's not right. I want to do something different, or I'm good where I am. And it's going to just keep drifting. But that's completely on you. And you can have a conversation with your husband, or you technically don't even have to. You, as like for me as a woman, I could be like, all right. And I had this many times. We had different views, as we said in the beginning, about a lot of things. I didn't know how to handle them because, well, he doesn't agree with me, so where am I gonna go with that? And so there was a lot of prayer and there was a lot of reflection and to say, "Okay, how can I serve my husband right now? Because 'Cause I'm in a moment, I don't understand where I am right now, but I just wanna serve him because 'cause I'm a spouse, and that's what we're here, and we're supposed to be serving each other." And so I noticed that every time I did that in my, like, not weakness, but just uncertainty, things became more clearer. It's like, "Okay, I just wanna make sure I'm on the right page." Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And for the women who are listening, what is your message to them if they are hearing what you're saying about serving their husbands and they're feeling maybe resentful or bitter?
Yeah. And I think that's real, 100%. And it's unfortunate that we don't really even know who to talk to, right? Because I was in this beautiful community of other homeschool families, and I'm like, "Oh, this is just me. I'm the only one feeling like this. I would never tell anyone else." And I realized I did, yeah. So I said, "Okay, what am I gonna do?" And I realized the resentment that I held was heavy. And so my question is, wait, do I want this? It goes along with the forgiveness part. And it's little things. It's just little things sometimes that build up over time. Or maybe you don't feel like you're valued at home. Whatever it is, a lot of things we put on our own shoulders. I realized that it was my responsibility to take that weight off. Even when we have to forgive, whether it's a stupid thing our husband said to us or they forgot something or whatever it is, we do carry those little things. And, we don't really know what to say because if we bring it up, maybe he's like, oh, it's no big deal. So they're little things and you have to decide, okay, do I want to carry this weight or do I want to slowly let them go, forgive and move on? Because when we don't forgive and we hold resentment, we're the ones that suffer with it. The other person sometimes has no idea.
I'd like to take that question from a man's perspective because I think it's a lot simpler. And I
Yeah.
think I'll save a lot of
We're also
women.
and you guys are more simple. Is that what you're
You're
gonna say?
stealing the thunder, baby. I was just like, I was going to throw. The reality is that I think men, we crave respect and we want to protect our family and we want to that's what
Right.
that's what we, so, and that's what I was saying when we argue and we fight. You don't have to tell me that I made a mistake or that I look dumb. I already know that. Like if you're constantly berating me and putting me down and not showing me respect as a man, that really hurts. And that drives the division
Yeah.
amongst the two of them.
Mhm.
That's probably one of the worst things that a woman can do to her husband. I'm being completely honest. I
Yeah.
don't want to be told that I'm stupid. I don't want to be told that I'm not good with money. I already know that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're telling me I'm failing at my basic duties as a man,
Yeah.
as a protector. That will drive a big wedge. I think that's when you need more of the connection. We're rather simple creatures, men. Really, we don't want to complicate things.
Right.
We're the problem solvers again. Remember, like I said, just show me your car's not working. Okay, let me call the mechanic. Let's get it to me. I don't want to know how you. That's not.
Well, that's the hard part is what we're having the conversation
Yes.
of is sometimes I need to tell you how I'm feeling. Or if you say something that like really, really bothered me or insulted me, and maybe to you it wouldn't have been a big deal, it is to me, you honestly cannot understand what I'm
Yes.
feeling. And I
Yes.
think that's actually important for us to know, women out there listening. When you are really bothered by something that your husband did or said to you, and you explain it to them,
No
they
idea.
truly have no
I
idea
have
what you're
no
talking
idea.
about. And I know I just wanna put that out there because it's important to know, because you want them to feel what you felt, and so sometimes you try to get back at them, and it's like, "No, it's not gonna work."
It's easy. It's
So
I know.
that's why it's important, ladies, for us to talk privately sometimes, to understand because we understand each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So many times I'll be upset about something and then my husband and I will sit down and talk about it. And at the end, he'll be like, never in a million years. If you had me guess what was wrong, that was like not even on my radar.
Right. Yes. Yep. Well, even the other day, it was our little girl was in the car. You guys had an argument. 2 seconds later, my husband turns to her and says, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "You just had an argument like 3 minutes ago. Did you forget?" "Oh, but that w" and I'm like, "Yeah, that it's still bothering her." She needs to actually
So this
like,
is
that's an example, like, he didn't understand that it was still affecting her. She wasn't done with it.
So
You know what I mean?
this is the classic example of a story. It was about 2 weeks ago in the kitchen. My wife prepared something, and I said, "Hey, this is really good." And then I have this little jar of jalapeno peppers that I grew in the summertime in my garden, and I jarred them with vinegar. I opened them up, and I'm like, "Man, these things are really great." I was proud of myself, and I just felt the tension in the room. And I said, "Jewel, what's the matter?" She goes, "Nothing." I said, "What's the matter, Julia?" And what was the matter?
Well, I was insulted that you raved about your peppers, and I spent, like, hours in the kitchen cooking, and it was nothing. It was like, "Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
Like I didn't
that's
even
okay."
wasn't on my radar. And I said your cooking was good. I was just giving
But
myself
normally
props.
this is funny, normally I wouldn't have said anything, but I'm like, why would I not say anything? And it was because he wouldn't understand, but I was like, "Okay, if you really wanna know, here it is."
I just felt
He still didn't
the
get it.
energy come out of the
Yeah.
room. Like
So you're aware, and
yes.
I think that's important, and I think that's an important message for everyone is be aware of what's going on in front of you. If you notice someone's mood change, what happened right before that? Because
And
that's
don't
what's
say what
wrong.
did I do wrong, because I didn't say that either. Because that's
You say
really
that all the
no,
time.
no, no, not in that instance. I was like, "What's the matter? What happened?
Yeah,
Make me
yeah.
understand," because I had no
Well, I think
idea.
again, it goes back to the permission, right? I'm going to give you permission to be open, and I'm not going to jump down your throat. I'm not going to make a big deal. I just want to hear what's bothering you.
Hmm.
When the question is framed that way, people are more willing to give you the response.
That's
What
excellent.
are some of the most impactful foundational habits that you guys have in your marriage that you feel like has been really instrumental in strengthening the trust and the love and the bond?
Maybe impactful foundational habits. She is singing my
I
tune
know.
right there. That sounds like such amazing. It's interesting. We can take this question in certain, and you can
Well,
talk about.
I think being open. I think that's the one thing. You can go on all the dates you want and you can go and enjoy the food and whatever, wine, and that's all great. But if you're not connecting,
Mm,
that's a problem. And being connecting, I'm talking about kind of what we're talking about, having conversations and hearing the other person. And, if Gino says what he said, he got a little worked up about how men get insulted and all that stuff. Like, sometimes I'll, like, push back after, like, "Why'd you say that?" You know what I mean? Like, "Okay, he was feeling that at the moment. Tell me more about that. Tell me what can I do differently? What can I do as a wife that you want more of? Or what do you want me to stop doing?" Like, you have to ask those questions to each other because like you said in the beginning, like, we're very different from when we first got married to now. Maybe we're doing the same things over and over again, and it's just working fine. But where do you wanna see more of me? How do you want me to show up differently? And then I asked him the same question, and I think that will help you move forward in your relationship.
Do you mind if I just share one quick, I think, little story of, I think, a friend that we used to have together, Rick Sapio. He taught me something called values based decision making. And I didn't know what that was when he said it, but we'd been living it our entire lives. I mean, when you homeschool your children, you're making a decision based upon your values.
Yeah.
And I think every decision that you make as a family, don't look out on Instagram or out in the world to see what everyone else is doing. Make it based upon the values that you're trying to create within your family. And you'll know it's right because if you do make a wrong decision, and I can go through this in the business world, if I make a bad investment, I'll know something's not right. It didn't align with my values or my goals. I had that feeling that it didn't happen. And it's the same thing with family. When you make a bad decision, when you yell at your child or you don't ask for forgiveness, those aren't the values that we espouse to. And then you'll understand it doesn't quite feel right. So if you can base all of your decisions on your marriage with your values, and I think the other thing I would say is I always put the family first. I mean, with 6 kids, I can't spend 6 hours on a Sunday playing golf. I couldn't do that. I can't go out and hang out at the bar on the weekends with my friends. I just couldn't do that. I had to say no to a lot of things. And unfortunately, there's certain things I would have liked to have done that I couldn't have done, but I'm glad because once again, it's based upon my values. If I'm a person who says that family is important and, they come first and then I'm going out to Vegas every other weekend with my friends, is that living in alignment? Is that going to uphold the family? And it's not. So I think ultimately values-based decision making should be implemented in your business and in your family life.
Okay, so if we were to ask your kids what your family's values are, what would they say?
I would say God first, for
Mhm.
sure. I think that's the number one legacy we're leaving that I want to leave them is their faith. And the question with that is, it shows by their example as adults because now that they're adults, they drive, they do their thing, and that they put God first. And I'm like, wow, I don't know how that happened, but that somehow worked. I think the family first, like Gino said, meal times are so important to the point where everyone literally comes home for lunch. Like, what did I do? We created a monster over here.
Did you see what the
It's
food bill was last month? It's like
but it's one of those things
rocket money.
where
You
they will
shouldn't show
actually
me.
say to us, "Mom, but this is how you trained us." And I'm like, "Oh, that's not a good word." But that we implemented the importance of family time around food because there's nothing like sitting at the table and eating a homemade meal with your family and just opening the conversation to wherever it leads. And they know that that's so, so important as far as values.
And I forgot the question because I was thinking about Publix and Costco bill. What was the question?
Just
Yeah.
what your kids would say about values. But I want to ask
Oh yeah.
specifically around meals. Do you have any sort of routine or is there a structure around the conversation that happens when you guys sit down for meals?
Oh,
It's changed,
can I
Julia.
just say this is the most important thing? Ladies, just hear me out. Teach your children to
Oh
cook.
yeah.
Teach them to cook. They will mess up. Let them mess up. Let them learn new recipes. Let them try things out because we have kids that like to cook. And let me tell you, life is so amazing at this point for me because I go in sometimes in the house and they're making dinner. I'm like, wow. And it's really good. Teach your kids to cook, even if it's like lessons somewhere. Just give them the basics of sauces and stuff. And I mean, my husband had a restaurant. They're very Italian. They love the Italian culture. And it all is revolves around food and the beauty of food and making homemade meals together in a kitchen. We even have an Instagram. If you go on Barbaro 360 on Instagram, you'll see them cooking because it is I'm telling you, if you start, sports are really important, activities really important, all that, whatever, but nothing compares to family time. And if you can start in the kitchen, the kids will start talking and then you sit and eat it together. And it's just that's where our family connects every day, multiple times a day. And it's beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how you have navigated financial success with still staying present and grounded and intentional with your parenting. Because I think that's a tension that a lot of couples are trying to figure out like, how do you do one well without sacrificing the other?
Question I would just challenge anybody listening to this is I've often heard I'm doing it for my kids. Have you ever asked your kids, is that what they want? And I'm telling you, I don't know if anybody's ever really asked the children, like, I'm going out and I'm working 70
Well, I
hours a
think that's
week
an
and I'm
excuse that
building a
we give.
business. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the first part of the answer to that question is to have the conversation with the kids. And money is such a taboo topic in this country, and I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, but we became money coaches around a year ago because we had a terrible relationship around money, even amongst
That was our
ourselves.
last, I feel like that was one of
The last
the
frontier,
last
baby.
block that we had was around money because I was afraid of it and he just I'm going to
I
use
was
this word.
great at it.
You were good
I'm
at it, but
excellent.
you were afraid to let go of it.
Yes.
So he was very controlling. And so the last year or so, we've completely shattered that
Well,
through money
what
coaching.
ended up happening was when we got married, I became the one who went to work, took care of the money, and she decided to stay at home and raise the kids. It's great. It was a great division of duty.
Mhm.
She became what we call an innocent when it came to money, and I became what we call a warrior or a little bit of a dictator, tyrant. I was tyrannical. I
He's a
was
tyrant.
fearful. You start having kids, and you start getting fearful. Like, am I
You
getting
were a
enough money?
tyrant.
I was.
You
And
go to the dentist. How much did you spend? I'm like, it's not my fault. The kids needed something.
sugar, you gotta stop the sugar. But this is important. This is what any couple right now listening to this should do to avoid a lot of the mistakes that we made. Just have a conversation with your spouse about your background, about how you were raised with money. When we did that, it was so obvious how I
You had
was
more compassion for each
yeah,
other.
I was raised by an immigrant family
Yeah.
who were great savers, who were afraid of money, who loved real estate. Hence, that's how I had my blueprint on money. And Julie was the opposite. I mean, single family mom, 3 kids, worked really hard. They didn't know what goals worth money were. They didn't have any
Yeah.
idea. So when we got married, we have different paradigms around money. And then as you start having children, the conversations and the arguments start around money, but they're not really arguments about money. I was more afraid. It's not that I didn't want to buy her $4 for an organic muffin. What are you, nuts? It's crazy.
Everything. I would get a text. What's this price? What is this? What'd you buy? And so then, so then there is a lot of what we were talking about earlier. And it's all we think it's around money, and it's not. It's like he doesn't think I'm worth it. And that was the conversation in my head for years and years. And then the kids came along, but they could get certain things. But you know what I mean?
But
And
that wasn't the case. The
But it
case was
wasn't.
I was
No,
afraid
he was
because I
afraid.
kept hearing, you've got 6 kids,
Yeah.
there's 6 colleges,
Right.
there's 6 weddings,
The
you have
fear was
retirements.
overwhelming.
And I'm thinking, wow. And I was afraid. I had that
Yeah.
scarcity mindset. And I'm like, okay, we can't spend money. We need to save. Save for a rainy day. Never for a sunny day, always for a rainy day. And that's how I started conditioning myself until I started doing this personal development work. And then I realized the shame that I had around money because men are supposed to know about money.
Right.
How do you? I didn't know about
Well,
money.
you're supposed to get married and know how to raise a family and know how to support. No, there's no lessons. There's no
Yes.
nothing for
And that's why it's a journey. And that's
Yeah.
why for us, it was, okay, you take this journey
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you go on this awareness of yourself. And then you see the suffering, the shame, the healing that you have to have around money. And it's harder for men because we tend to suppress our feelings. We can't show vulnerability because vulnerability means you're weak.
Yeah.
And if we're weak, that's a sign that, years ago, you'd be dead. Like you have no shot. So it's very hard for us. And once I started doing that work, I saw all of the mistakes that I was making around money. And more importantly, the lessons and the way I was teaching my kids around money and their stories that they had, all of what we call a financial flashpoint, which is our money memories. As we have these big emotional events around money when we're younger, and we carry them into our adulthood. And I started creating these events for my children, and I'm like, I better be careful. Like I'm screwing them up around money. And it was one of those awakenings that I had. I'm like, wow, it's been a really incredible journey.
Yeah, that's
for
a
us
number.
around money.
You said it's worse for men, but you have to remember we women think way more than you guys do. So we put a lot of pressure on ourselves too. But no, Gino's making a different point that money it's almost the same issue, but we put it in a different category when we have arguments about money. And again, it's not about the money. Like every time my husband would text me, I would feel like he didn't value me. All these thoughts on like, why are you spending so much money on these necessities? And it was when just recently, we've been married for a long time, it was revealed to us that he's just so afraid. And now when he texts me, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's really upset. He's really nervous. He's really fearful of something. Let me call him and see what's going on. And so that weight that we carry wasn't there anymore because I realized that, okay, I saw the other side for real. It wasn't just, I'm afraid that we're not going to be able to pay the bills. There was a deep fear of something more that I had to like, hey, what's going on? Let's talk
I need
about it.
to,
Very different.
what's the word? I need to defend myself a little bit more on my
Oh
past
boy.
because this may resonate with somebody listening.
Yeah.
I was also raised in a household where you don't waste anything.
Yeah.
So if I see a $7 charge,
Yeah.
even I might have millions. It doesn't matter how much. It's just that feeling and that emotion of I can't waste. I have to eat everything on my plate because that kid in Africa
Right.
is going to starve. Like what could what the idea that may help is just
There's a lot of
incredible.
fear
I was
placed
just
on us as
yeah.
children, and we place it on our children, and it's a generational thing that we
Yes.
just pass along because we know certain people that don't care, right? They spend money, they don't care, whatever they waste. We don't wanna be like that, so therefore we have
So
to go the other extreme.
what was cool though is we realized that, and we wanted to stop that
Yeah.
pattern of generational. That's part of the legacy. People talk about legacy as leaving something. It's actually setting something in motion. And that hopefully we've set this whole idea
Just the
of
health of money.
exactly, and
What
having
we
that
believe,
conversation around
what
money.
our
Yes.
patterns are, and it
hmm
was something that we looked into, and we talk to our kids now very differently about money, and we ask them their memories of money around when we were, raising them as little, and yeah, we didn't like the answers, to be honest, because that means that we messed them up again, but it was a great conversation, and it started and it continued into conversations and a connection that we wouldn't have had we had asked those difficult questions.
If a listener has some young kids at home, what would you advise them on how to teach their kids to have a healthy mindset and relationship with money?
Once again, it comes down to me, the mirroring. If
Mm.
you don't have a healthy relationship, if you're always nervous, if you're always anxious, the kids are going to feel that. I think the first thing is just for yourself. This may be hard for a lot of people. And I've been reading James Clear and Atomic Habits. And I love his book about habits and about changing your habits. I think you have to start, it comes down to the identity. Once I started changing my identity from being the pizza guy to the multifamily investor, and once I changed my identity around money from being afraid of money to seeing money as a tool, it's a slow process. It may take a little bit of time, but I think you need to see that and you need to start learning and understanding what money is and how that relates. Because if you're going to start teaching your kids about saving and investing at such a young age, they're going to be confused. You're going to have to make it more fun, more enjoyable, more relatable to them. And I think it needs to start with you first.
Well, yeah, I think it's the example. If we are so focused, and this is again a mistake that I've made, it's a good mistake because again, we learn from everything how we mess up. But when we work on ourselves and we reveal to ourselves, okay, this is why, when I'm out and the kids, if I'm about to put the credit card in the machine, I seem a little like unsettled. They feel it, they see it. This is a time to talk about it. Well, this is, I wonder, you know what I mean? And I think it's when you focus on yourself, and I don't mean in a selfish way, just in a healing way, and you work on your relationship with money, what your beliefs are, where they came from, what your patterns are, your emotional patterns around it, your behaviors around money, work on that first. And then first of all, your kids will notice it because they'll see the calmer mother. Then you could say, okay, kids, they're 10 years old. What was your first memory around money? Like, did you ever notice me and dad talk around money? Like, what was and then you kind of go into that conversation of, where are they? Are they fearful? Are they afraid to tell you that they spent money? Are they afraid, when when our younger kids would get their Christmas check from especially from your family, the Italian side, my husband literally would walk over, they would open the card and he'd be like, "Up, I'll take that check and put it in the bank." And so in their mind, they're like, "Dad just took my present." And they never saw it again because it was going to be saved for another day. And so that is in their head for years that Dad's just going to take my gifts. And so we didn't think about that until recently, and now they're in their 20s. They're doing okay. You know what I mean?
It's interesting.
So open conversations around it. This is how I'm feeling. Hey, how are you feeling? What are you afraid? Are you excited by this? Ask them questions and let them answer it. Because we're their primary example. They learn everything from us. We can give them all the lessons in the world about anything, but they are just going to follow our example.
Were you going to say something, Gina?
No, it was just interesting, that whole idea with the saving. There are some mechanical things that you can do. I think the kids should be able to see money. We would split it up into jars, into saving, spending and charity. So we'd have 3 jars. So they would see it. And I think you empower your children to give them the money and let them make decisions around money.
You just said you also have to teach, and of course that's
Yes.
real.
Yes.
But go ahead. I
No, and I
cut
was
you off.
just saying, empowering them and letting them make decisions around it. It's giving them the power. Like, I think back to that story, and all of a sudden, if they're equating, I had saving in my journey when I was young, that wow, saving is really important. They're having saving and saying, well, dad's taking the money away from me. Where's he putting it? They can't even reconcile that, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's important to have that cash and let them make those decisions and let them spend their money whichever way, but let them create those healthy habits of also saving is a healthy thing and giving money to charity is a healthy thing. And part of this money is yours as well. So you need to be able to spend it in any way you see fit.
Yeah, I love the jar. I love the jars with you because they made their own jars for themselves. They had it in their room. We had cash, right? It's a little different now. There's not as much cash as there was before. I don't know. But for them to see the charity and say, "Hey, do you want to give this away to someone that you think would benefit from it?" They got to actually take it and hand it to that, whether it was church or whatever it was.
Hmm.
And so it was a healthy view for them because they were in control of their little jars. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Knowing what you guys know now about money, how would you handle allowances and jobs and chores for young kids?
We got a great tip on a podcast, and I loved what this gentleman said. He basically said, I really don't want to pay my kids to do chores, like make their bed, clean up their room. But if they're going to go out and cut the grass, and I'm going to pay somebody to cut the grass, or they're going to clean the pool, or they're going to wash my car, that's some great ways for them to earn money. And I like that model. I like that strategy because mom's not getting paid I'm not getting paid to go take care of the cars or to do whatever around the house. I like that idea where, hey, it's part of the family. We all have our own responsibilities. But at the same time, if you want to earn extra money and do something on the side, that's great.
Yeah.
I
No,
like that.
I like that too. I think we got caught up in paying the kids for these little chores that, I mean, technically it was their responsibility to do anyway. You know what I mean? So we all go through those. I mean, I had chores. I had all of this. I had so many things I tried out because I'm like, how do I organize the kids better? And we all try things out. Some things will work for like a month and it's amazing. The shoes are all nice when you walk in, you know what I mean? And like let that happen. Try things out. See what happens. It might work for a couple weeks, it might work for a couple days. But I think ultimately, again, if your room is a mess, if your desk is a mess and you're yelling at the kids to put your clothes away, there's the problem. And so I think that's something to say, okay, before I tell my kids something, am I living that life? Let me look at my stuff before. We're real. There's a lot of clothes in our houses. Like I said, 5 daughters and me. So there's 6 women, 2 guys. We do have a lot of stuff. And at times it's not organized. And so if I'm yelling, and I did that before, I'm like, you guys have to keep your room clean. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just being like, I'm afraid my mother-in-law is coming over and therefore she's going to say something to me. So there's where my fear is coming from. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why am I yelling right now? But I was okay yesterday. It's like, okay. You know what
This
I
is
mean?
great. I can't believe it. We went about 50 minutes without having to speak about my mom. That's a
Oh,
record, actually. I'm surprised. I thought we were going to get under the radar without having to speak about my
his
mom,
mom
but
a
I had to
lot.
stick it in there,
She's
didn't you?
amazing. I always say she's amazing. We get along very, very well. There's always, mother-in-laws, there's that external family member. There's always someone that weighs on your family. If it's your Italian mother-in-law, you have to speak carefully, but or any other culture, because I'm realizing every culture is the same. But I think that comes down to, if you brought her up again, I wasn't going to bring her up again, but I think it's important to remember is that the spouses come first if
Mhm.
we're going to talk about in-laws at all. A lot of times I think my husband put his mom in front of certain things. And it, again, another weight that I carried for a long time. They talked about the money, they talked about business, they talked about where we were going to live. I mean, you know, and for years and years, I'm like, something's not right. I didn't know what it was, but I'm like, she's helping. So therefore, I'll just leave it. But it was a problem, but I didn't know it until I realized it was. And I'm like, but if I say anything, it might upset him or whatever. Just be open, just talk, be open, and just remember that put your wife first, put your husband first, and things will change.
How are you going to navigate that when your kids start getting married? I don't
Yeah,
know. Is
that's
anyone
it.
married yet?
Not
Not
yet,
yet.
not yet.
How are you going to navigate that? Because it
Yeah,
I agree with it, and it
yeah.
sounds amazing until it happens to your kids and then you put in.
Yes, 100%. No, I'm with you, and I think about it more often now than ever, and it's something that I have to remember is once our children get married, they're no longer, I'm gonna say, my responsibility, but you know what I mean? They're still our daughter, all that fun stuff, but they're no longer that immediate family because now they have a new family, and it's something that we as parents need to honor. We need to honor it in such an important way because, do we wanna be that annoying mother-in-law? Do we wanna be that person that causes division in someone else's marriage? Like, it's a really big deal, and I think we have to look at that and say, "Okay, I respect my daughter or my son, and therefore I'm gonna give them separation," and understand that now they have their own family. Very different. It's something that we constantly have to remember, you know? And ask the question, "Hey, do you want me to over or do you need," we have to be open with the questions again. "Tell me where you want me, because 'cause I'll be where anywhere," or if I'm doing too much or if I'm not doing enough. Just love them.
Okay, let's do a couple rapid fire questions. One non-negotiable in your marriage.
I guess dating other people.
I would say one non-negotiable is you go to mass every Sunday, church every Sunday. So that's non-negotiable. That's something that we need to do every week.
Yeah, I think just
Don't be
connecting.
stealing my
Yeah,
shit.
I'm
Don't be
not,
stealing
I'm
my.
not. Go
Okay.
ahead.
What about a family ritual that you'll never give up other than mass on Sundays?
Other than that, I think the family meals for sure.
On vacations too, we can't go away without the kids. So the
I'm
rituals
ready to
is
go away without the kids.
the kids aren't ready to go away without the kids. And that's the great thing. It's amazing that the children want to go on vacation with us
But at the
still.
same time, I'm gonna push back because here we are having this is our therapy right now. I think it's important that couples take
I
the
agree.
time for each other. Kids are 100% important, but marriage is first.
Yeah. And I think a lot of couples get that wrong.
Oh, and we did 100% for years. Put the kids first because that's just naturally what it
So
feels
one of
right.
the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of couples make is they have kids that are 12, 13, 14 years old and they're ready to move, but they're like, I can't move until my kids get out of high school. I have to wait for them. And
Mm,
I say to yourself, I think the whole idea is to try to make the couples happy. Try to
mm.
make and
Well, to do
then well,
what's right for the
so what's right
marriage.
for the marriage,
Yeah.
what would make us happy is we moved to Florida.
Yeah.
That's why we didn't wait
Yeah.
and say, "Oh, we can't move because some of our kids are
School,
in high
whatever.
school."
Yeah.
And no, we had to make the decision because we knew it was best for us, for our relationship. We needed a connection, a boundary from our family.
Yeah.
We needed to move, and it was going to cause a lot of dislocation and discomfort for our children. If we hadn't made that decision, it would have been, I think, catastrophic for us. I think we made the right decision to actually do that. It's short-term
Yeah.
pain, but it was for the long-term benefit. And a lot of us use our children as an excuse to say, "Oh, I can't. I have to wait." No, you don't have to
Yeah.
if you don't want to. That's something
Well, I
that's
think
really
that goes
important.
back to putting your spouse
Yes,
first.
that's
Like
that's my.
my husband actually needed to move out of New York. Nobody else wanted to, but I'm like, he needs it. We need to
Mhm.
go. So I
Yeah.
think it's a big deal.
Favorite all-time book?
Well, mine's a religious book, and he, of course, has a business book, I'm sure. But mine is into your hands. I forget what the author is, but that's just what it is. And it's basically talks about don't worry. Don't worry, God has it taken care of. He knows how it ends. He knows the struggle. He knows where it is. He's with you and not to worry. And I think it's a complete book on surrender, and we all need it.
I don't have a favorite book, unfortunately. I've read so many books. I would if there's going to be a self-help book, I like Stephen Covey's book. It's just Seven Habits. It's very easy for me to read. It's a personal development book, and all of those skills apply to either family or business.
Okay, last rapid fire question. A successful life is one where.
You're full of joy. Like, honestly, I think money is important and all that, but when at the end of the day, when you are home with your family and you're having an incredible, beautiful moments with your family, everyone's laughing and you're together, that is complete success.
A successful life is when you are living your soul purpose. When you figure out what you're actually here for and you're actually helping others and empowering others. And for us, it's really expanding the family and creating impact in other people's lives.
Can you tell us more about Barbaro 360 before we wrap
And
up?
yeah, that's one of the sole purpose or one of the passionate things that we are striving for right now. We're looking to help other families because we think that families with financial intelligence, they can change the world for the better. If we start talking about money in a healthy way, if we start understanding what money is and how it can help and how we can break this cycle that we are seeing within generations from one cycle to the next. And if we can teach people basic financial intelligence, that can really affect the world.
Yeah. So check us out, Barbaro360.com, Barbaro360 Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and now on School.
Thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with us. I have so much gratitude for you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anne. We
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Thanks for tuning in to Empowered Living. I hope today's conversation sparked some inspiration and gave you tools to live more intentionally in your family, work, and life. If you enjoyed our episode today, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an inspiring story or actionable takeaway. And if you know someone who would love this episode, share it with them. Because living an intentional life is better when we do it together. Until next time, remember, the life you want doesn't happen by chance, it happens by choice. Let's keep creating it one step at a time.